It's 12 o'clock.
Hey guys, it's Sarah here, just saying hello.
Hey, Sarah. Hey, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, hello. Hey, this is Victoria, and I'm the head of global operations for the Lonely Entrepreneur. Welcome, everyone. Happy Easter weekend. Happy Passover to those who celebrate. Hope everyone is safe and well. We're just waiting for people to jump on, so we'll get started in a couple of minutes. Hey, everyone. For those of you who are just jumping on, we're just giving it a couple more minutes for people to jump on. I know it's Friday, so happy Friday to everyone. Thanks for waiting, everyone. Just another minute as people are asking to hang on as they join us. So we'll get started in just a minute. Hang on. All right, I think we're ready to go. Hi, everyone. This is Victoria. Welcome. Thanks for being here and joining us today. Just a quick reminder. So today's topic is all about revenue. You know, it's embracing the existing customers and things that we can do. It's thinking about new revenue models. And Michael, I think we just lost your screen. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you, but we don't see anything.
Okay, all right, cool, thank you. Okay, so revenue is today's topic, and please chime in, ask questions. We want this to be as interactive as possible, and for obviously for everybody to walk away with answers to this topic that's at the top of everybody's mind. So without further ado, Michael.
You're still muted.
Nope. Sorry about that.
There you go.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody is staying safe and healthy, as Victoria said, and happy Passover and Easter to everybody. We're in the second of our fireside chats. Wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping in the beginning, just to make sure that everybody knows what's coming and how everyone can take advantage of the free Entrepreneur Survival Guide. And also just kind of add a couple of other things. So first and foremost, again, the Entrepreneur Survival Guide is free to everyone. So feel free to pass it along to friends and colleagues. They can simply go to lonelyentrepreneur.com/survival guide, and I'll hop over to that really quickly to that page. And this page simply allows an individual to go, just simply click on get it free and use the code TLE help at checkout, and we'll let everybody in all the way into the Entrepreneur Survival Guide. Okay. Secondly is wanted to just give everybody a heads up on what's coming. Last week we covered cash. This week we're going to be covering revenue. Next week we're going to be covering expenses, how to negotiate with vendors, how to deal with employee costs, creative ways to save money. We're going to go back to cash again. About creative ways to optimize your cash. Remember the first cash one we talked about was really about some of the SBA programs, and I have one update that I want to share on that. Next is your plan. I know we're anxious to get people to execute the plan, what's in it, what's not in it, how do you manage it. I think we shared some insights a couple weeks ago on that. And finally, which is staying healthy. How do you make sure that you're taking care of yourself, because you really do need to be at your best during this time. Okay. Two quick little housekeeping things. One, I wanted to clarify some new guidance that came out on the Paycheck Protection Program. There was a lot of confusion about whether companies that had 1099 employees could file the Paycheck Protection Program for the costs that were 1099s. Originally, and on the Bank of America website, in fact, it said you could. So if you're a company that had a bunch of 1099s that you paid, you would apply for all of them. They have now come out with guidance that said you can't. And the individual 1099s people, like if you're an independent contractor, you actually have to file for yourself, okay? Where you're filing 2.5 times payroll. We're happy to help people with this afterwards. And so we're happy to help. Just kind of reach out, drop us a note, and we'll show you how to do that. It's actually a pretty simple application process. The second was, believe it or not, we got a huge request for stories. Everybody knows the craziness we went through in 2008. And so we had a bunch of people say, listen, tell us what it was a little bit like. And I'm just going to tell you a quick story that shows kind of the craziness of the whole thing. Back in 2008, when things were collapsing all over the place, our company, our healthcare company, was based in northern New Jersey, and there was a couple of gas stations and a 7-Eleven around the corner. And one day while the crisis was going on, I pulled up my car to put gas in my car, and I ran inside and got a coffee or a soda or something. And I came back out, and I was so anxious to get to the problems of the day that I actually pulled away from the gas station with the nozzle still in my gas tank and basically pulled down about half the stanchion of this particular gas station. And that was crazy enough, but 2 minutes later, the guy came over to me and said, WTF? And I was like, dude, I gotta go. The world's collapsing. And I gave him my card and I said, call me and I'll pay for it and figure it out later. So, we're all going through this crazy time. It's different now, of course, because we're dealing with health and we never want to underestimate that. So we're all in this together. We know what it's like, you and it's like, so let's figure out and spend some time today on how to do things better and have a better chance of success, okay? Just a little reminder for everybody. We want to make sure that you and your friends and colleagues and networks are taking advantage of this free resource. When you go to that page that you sign up for, you will get access to the entire learning community, which doesn't just include the survival guide, which we're going to spend time on today, but includes all of the other resources that are available across your business as a whole. We think about this as survive and thrive. And so feel free to take advantage of all the resources that are in there, not just the survival guide. Okay. Today, the focus is going to be on revenue. And, obviously, a lot of what we're all dealing with right now is the fact that we're looking at potentially the loss of all revenue, right, for many, many businesses. And that's not always the case, right? But you have a lot of businesses. Think about a haircutting business, a massage business, a social media consultant, certainly people that have rental or real estate, any kind of retail store. I mean, ... So, dealing with revenue is an incredibly complicated and difficult thing. And we're going to try to lend some insight to that today across a couple of different slices. I also want to reiterate what Victoria said. Please chime in and ask questions. We want this to be about your businesses. So if there's specific questions you have about your businesses, I think it would be insightful for everybody to hear everybody's particular challenges. Okay. Within the Entrepreneur Survival Guide, there's a section about revenue, which is going to cover a lot of the things that we're going to cover today, including what we're going to talk about first, which is embracing your customers, how to ask for money when everybody's struggling, reshape your revenue, how do you prepare for the after and new opportunities that are going to emerge. And that's what we're going to kind of get started on today. Victoria, just let me ask, any questions from anybody at this point, or are we ready to go?
Nope, I think we're ready to go. There are going to be, I have a couple of questions that people have emailed, so I'll ask those as we go or towards the end. Okay.
Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is existing customers. What we all have to understand is that existing customers in many different ways, shapes, and forms are going through all the same challenges that we're going through, right? So what we have to think about for existing customers is the terminology that I like to use, which is more than they ask before they ask, okay? And that means we have to be thinking proactively, right? Not reactively, about how do we help their businesses succeed, right? And succeed means different things in different times. Succeed might mean first and foremost, hey, I get another social media follower. Now succeed in a lot of ways means cash, okay? So how is it that first and foremost, we can do more than they ask before they ask, right? To try to give us a best chance of success of maintaining those customers, having them customers see you as an essential piece of their future, right? And also thinking about asking customers in partnership with them how they can ultimately pay, okay? So let's talk about some pretty small things that are just, some of these are very tactical, right? First is giving them extra hours. Like if you're an hourly service, right, where somebody says, hey, I do social media consulting, or I do this and this and this, think about going back to them before they ask you and say, listen, I know you can't afford me right now. I know that your times are really tough. I'm going to help you for free. I want to give you 10 free hours this month. Okay. Next is, of course, basic things like spreading out payments. Okay. Next is, can you give them an idea about how they might be able to generate revenue? We understand, of course, that many of the services that we provide are not about getting our customer revenue, right? But at the end of the day, unless we're aligned to cash for them, like we're not going to be essential. I mean, that's the type of situation. So can you give them an idea? Can you introduce them to a relationship? Can you do something that actually can help them generate cash? And that obviously goes to brainstorming with them. Okay. People have gone to customers and offered to split expenses with them, right? I have an employee, you have an employee, maybe for the next 2-3 months, we could split those expenses. Okay. And then finally, keep them posted about what their competition is doing. This is not about the service you provide for them. This is about helping them succeed. Okay. And if you help them succeed, right, they will buy and pay for the service you provide for them. Okay. One more comment about this. Customers in many ways and shapes and forms are thinking about one thing, which is cash, which is understandable. Okay. But a lot of times there is risk to them that will actually cost them cash. So for example, let's say that they, one of the firms that we're talking to, that we work with rather, is an accounting firm. And the accounting, we were talking to the accounting firm and they were saying, about 50 employees, a couple $1 million in revenue. And we're saying, well, what are you doing for your customers? Because you could easily see customers picking up the phone and saying, we have to cut our accounting services with an outside firm. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing more than they ask before they ask? And we said, well, wait a minute. Why wouldn't you actually help them apply for the government programs? Right? Actually do it for them. Actually, you're accountants, right? This stuff should be easy. You have all the payroll data. Why wouldn't you actually help them do it and do it for free? Right? Because if they get money from these loans and they get monies from the Paycheck Protection Program, or like, it makes it more likely that you're going to get paid for your services. Okay. So it is not just about the product or service you provide. Okay. It's more than they ask before they ask. And remember, all of us should always be asking ourselves, how do I help my customers succeed? Not necessarily just my customers succeed in what I do for them. Right? If you're a social media consultant and you pick up the phone and you call them and talk to them about social media, that's fine. That might be plenty. Okay. But what about when you pick up the phone and tell them about something their competition is doing? Right? Now you become a trusted advisor, right? And they become much more likely to use you as a social media consultant. Of course, that's boiled down to the basics right now, right? Of cash and revenue, but do more than they ask before they ask. The other thing that I will tell you is that what you do during these times can create lasting, lifelong customer relationships. Anybody can do the extra thing when money's flowing. Okay, I can tell you today that I have customers of mine from my old healthcare business that, with all the things that were going on, that did things for me and that we did things for them, that we would take not a literal bullet, but a business bullet for each other. And those relationships have lasted 15 years. Okay. What you do now makes a difference. They may not be able to pay you another $1 on Saturday. Okay. But they will be much more likely to work with you and see the value that you add if you give them more than they ask before they ask. Okay. This is hard. We all have no time. We all have all the things that we're having to do, right, to maintain our own businesses. But remember, customers are our lifeblood, and we need to embrace them. Okay. Victoria, any questions, or can I keep going?
So you were just addressing it. Somebody asked, how do I make an impression on customers and prospects so that when the market demand is revived, they will remember me as one of the good guys?
Great question. Don't talk to them about the service that you provide for them. Talk to them about their business, their revenue, their cash, and how you can help. Introduce them to a new customer. Give them a new idea. Tell them about your competition, right? Just help them succeed, right? Of course, you can do things like spreading out payments and all that kind of stuff, and giving them extra hours and all those things like that. And we're going to talk a little bit about packaging and pricing, in a second. But think about what makes them what makes them successful. Okay, here's the way I would think about it. Think about it as a customer's business is this big round circle, huge circle. And your piece of that business might be a tiny little circle. And we're used to operating in those tiny little circles, right? If you help them with the big circle, they'll take care of the tiny little circle. Okay?
Yep. And another question we had, what about enterprise customer prospect you don't actually have yet?
I'm sorry, one more time, Victoria?
What about enterprise customer prospects you don't actually have yet?
You mean new larger company prospects?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the most important thing with respect to enterprises is you have to understand the context of what they're going through right now, right? If you are talking about, for example, calling on a healthcare company, it's not going to happen. Okay, if you think about the stuff that they're dealing with right now. For a lot of enterprise customers right now, short of, you have two main types, right? One is the ones like the Amazons and the shopping stores and the Pizza Huts that are hiring crazy just to deal with demand. And then you have the rest of the world that's trying to figure out what's going on, right? That is not particularly attentive to new stuff, okay? Here's what I would say. Number one, make sure you're reworking your message, right? You may not be able to call on them tomorrow because they may not be paying attention. Make sure you're reworking your message and reworking your product offering so that it aligns to what's on the CEO's desk. Because if it's not on the CEO's desk, it's not going to get bought in the next year.
Right.
Okay. You have to think about what are the biggest, most strategic things, right, that make a difference, right? Nice to have is not going to be on the radar screen. And we're going to talk about this at the end of this a little bit more. So I don't mean to address this off the cuff, but for some folks, maybe we have to wait 30 days to see how the world plays out, to see how much we can actually call on, how quickly rather we can call on enterprise customers.
Gotcha. And another question, just, I guess this goes to everything that we've been talking about, should I increase my contact with my customers, right? So I think, sometimes it might be worth just picking up the phone and just talking to your customers. Like you said, it's not selling. It's just really checking in and almost asking if there's anything else I can do to help you with business, not necessarily around the product or service that you're selling, right? Just to continue that, relationship and building trust and continuing the conversation.
Absolutely, 100%. Checking in on how they're doing personally, of course, but checking in on, is there anything that I can do with you? And remind them, you're not just talking about your business. Right. Talking about what can I do? Can I try to refer you a new customer? Can I help you? Is there anything you need? Right.
Yeah, sometimes you may have, you may be able to almost weigh in around another part of the business, not necessarily particular to the service or the product that you're selling to them. So,
or even a consumer. Let's say you have a wellness center that's now shut down,
yeah.
Right? And you've got all these customers that come into your wellness center every day, and we're going to talk a little bit about going online and new revenue models and stuff like that. But absolutely, right? If you're in the business of wellness, why isn't that you can't not only inquire, but offer different products and services that serve that just in a different way? We're going to talk about that at the end in more detail. But again, more than they ask before, they ask about what helps them, not what helps them with respect to your business. Okay. I want to briefly refer back to something that fits in between these topics, which is we're talking about doing whatever you can to help them, but also, everybody needs cash, right? And there's nothing wrong with asking for payment, okay? But there's a way that you have to do it. One, you have to be empathetic, right? You have to understand that this is happening up and down the whole supply chain. The governments are not giving away $2 trillion for shits and giggles, right? This is a systemic problem. And so the first thing you have to do is be empathetic, tell them you understand what they're going through, ask if you can help as much as you can, as we talked about before, okay? It's okay to communicate that you're in the same dilemma, that we're all in this together. And it's just a matter of, is there a way that we can work this out that benefits everybody? Okay. Remember, one of the things that I said last week as part of your plan is you shouldn't be paying any vendor. You should be stopping everything and then figuring it out. And this is kind of in conflict with this. So none of this stuff is black and white, right? There's a lot of judgment that comes to this, right? So, but if you have real customer relationships, then discuss it with you, discuss it with them, they will discuss it with you and go from there. Next is, can you commit additional products and services? Can you say, listen, I know money's tight right now, but let's lock something up where I'll give you more, and I'll give you more in the future, right? As a value. And they may say, listen, I need it, I can't afford it, so you giving me extra stuff right now is great. And yes, I'll give you some of the dollars that I owe you. Not even new stuff. I'm not talking about selling them new things. I'm talking about even just a reason for paying you what they already owe you. Okay. Next is basically things like, spreading out payments and stuff like that, and providing deeper discounts. But that's stuff that obviously very basic stuff that people are doing. But also don't ignore credit card payments. See, if you recall, one of the things that you can suggest to customers is that they pay you on credit card, or you may set yourself up, if you're not already, to get paid with credit cards, which is very easy to do. Because remember, a lot of these credit cards are 0% interest credit cards, right? So a customer can go apply for a credit card and get a $25,000 line of credit or a $50,000 line of credit that they might not have to pay back for 15, 18, or 21 months. Okay, remember, desperate times call for desperate measures. These are not normal things, but different things that we have to be able to do. Okay.
Mhm.
Any questions?
Nope, not right now.
Okay. And guys, you can see that I'm in the Entrepreneur Survival Guide. So I'm in a couple of the modules that you're seeing around the Survival Guide. I'm just in the one around revenue. Okay. So let's talk about packaging and pricing.
Actually, there is one, but I don't know if, sorry, there is one somebody sent. I don't know if you want to answer it now or later, but people are talking about kind of reworking the financial plan. And for people who are raising money, how do you forecast, how do you work revenue now, right? Because you have no idea what's going to happen.
Sure. There isn't really a spot in there for this, so I might as well just answer it right now. You just have to be super conservative. And here's what I would say to you about raising money. Raising money is a tiny bit about what's going to happen in 3 months, but not really, right? When people invest in businesses, they're investing for market opportunity, right? So as you guys know, my old business, rewarding people for being healthy, we only had 1 or 2 customers when we raised our money, right? And we said, listen, do you believe that the world is going to reward people for healthy behavior or not to an investor? And if they believed it, we said, if you believe it, then it's probably a $100 billion market opportunity. If you don't believe it, I understand. So a little bit of it is about what happens in September. Right. But the bigger job is to communicate the value and the opportunity in the marketplace that your solution solves. Okay, so very few investors care what happened in month 1. Now, if you're opening a pizza stand, it's a little bit of a different story. And of course, you have to play with your projections. But I can tell you, even if your projections are bad, not bad, good, not good in month 4, right? Especially venture investors, right? This may be different if you're opening up a retail store, and we can talk about that more. It's more, but even there, you're talking about what the opportunity is, right? Not necessarily what's going to happen in month 1.
Okay, great.
Okay, cool. All right, so now let's get into the nuts and bolts of, I want to talk about packaging and pricing, right? We're going to talk a little bit more about new revenue models and being creative and breaking out our entrepreneurial creativity in a minute, but let's talk just a little bit of nuts and bolts, okay? First, let's talk about pricing, okay? Obviously, packaging your pricing in smaller, lower bite sizes is hugely important right now. So I'll give you an example. Many of you know Lonely Entrepreneur does consulting, right? For one-on-one consulting for founders and stuff like that. And our minimum is normally $5,000, right? Our minimum is now, for anybody that needs it, $1,000 for 4 hours of work. So like, we're just an example of, what we're trying to do is give away the Entrepreneur Survival Guide, help as many people as we can. Some people that need help, we're just repackaging something that used to be $5,000 that's now $1,000. You have to do the same thing, okay? If your service was bundled up a certain way, if you had a membership fee, you may have to break it apart into, okay, people use it as they as they take advantage of it, right? But overall, making your price more bite-sized and also spread out. Like you might say, okay, I've got a customer that pays me $5,000 a month for something. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'd like to offer you this service, and I'm gonna give it to you, and I'm gonna charge you $1,000 a month for 12 months, right? As opposed to $5,000 in a month. And I'm gonna give you the same type of service. So there's just different ways to package and price your products and services that take into account that cash is a bigger problem. Remember, I'm operating and I'm communicating as if people have no cash, and that's not completely true, right? That's not always the case. So if you go to somebody and say, listen, I'm going to give you all this stuff over the course of the year, and you're going to lock into something that's more money over the course of the year, but it's less now. I would have had to pay you $5,000. Instead of cutting me, pay me $1,000, but you're going to pay me for whatever package of services over 12 months, right? And I'm oversimplifying it because obviously you have to do the math and how much you're providing. Okay, but think about packaging and pricing in a different way. Okay, the other type of pricing that is welcomed by customers, not always the easiest to do, but welcomed by customers, is incentive-based pricing. No, so for example, somebody may say to a PR firm, listen, I can't afford to have a PR firm at first, but you might go back and say, well, how about this? How about for every major placement I get you, you'll give me $1,000. Now, for all the PR people on the phone, we know that's hard, but so what? Doesn't matter. Your alternative is them saying, I can't afford PR. Okay, so incentive-based pricing is also something that can be incredibly valuable, and obviously aligns your interests together. Okay, next is the one you see here, which is same customers, different product or service. I mean, this is a really good example of like the accounting firm. The accounting firm had no intention at all of actually helping people process their loan applications. It's like, we don't really do, and like, well, there's a lot of things you don't really do, but you're just basically, think about accounting, right? Accounting, somebody who's struggling with cash is going to pick up the phone and go to their accounting firm and say, yeah, I know I need you, but I'm not going to do my audit. I'll put it off. I'll figure it out later. Because remember, tax payments have been delayed till July 15th and blah, blah, blah. So why not go to those same customers with a different product or service? Okay. I don't mean to suggest that these all are the easiest things in the world, and we're going to talk about in the end, new revenue models and other types of things. Okay. Obviously, right, we're talking about alternative delivery, right? And that's the most linear of those is going to be, online, right? How do I take a service and transition online? I know we were working with somebody that has a physical location that is shut down, that provides a lot around mindset and wellness and how your immune system, and has a series of treatments that happen in the center, and it's a membership fee, right? So think about and saying, okay, if we're in the business of helping people with their immune systems, and I have good connections with my customers, why don't we go back to them and say, how do we provide value to you for your membership fee around your immune system, but just not where you're physically there? And that requires a lot of creativity, right? How do we help you, right, be on the right track when you can't physically be there? So now put your entrepreneur brainstorming hat on and go figure out different ways to help people be well and for their immune systems to do well, and do it virtually. So we're crafting a couple of weekly online sessions. We're giving them our Entrepreneur Survival Guide for free to this customer so they can help them if they happen to be entrepreneurs. Like, we've got to be creative as hell. What's super interesting for this particular one, in operating their stores, they had, round numbers, $20,000 in revenue, and $30,000 in revenue and $15,000 in cost, right? So they'd make about $15,000 a month. With the new model, because they don't have any costs, they're going to make $20,000 in revenue and $18,000 in profit. I'm using round numbers, okay? Opportunity exists.
Yeah.
think about your customers and think about how you can deliver your service, not just, hey, I'm going online, but what value can I provide? Remember, online is just a medium for delivery. Okay, you have to think of the value you're providing.
Okay.
Viv, did you have a question?
Yep. So, so Melissa's asking, what is the best way to ensure that your clients will go back to the original agreement if you agree to a fee reduction during this challenging time? And she's sending my clients an addendum to original contracts, but is there anything else that she can do?
So it doesn't really have anything to do with the legal agreements, because at the end of the day, clients are going to be able to pay what they pay. So it's really about creating value, right? Like it's really about like the ability to get those agreements signed is about the value that you provide. You can absolutely, and you should, create addendums to, to your legal agreements to do that. But, if 3 months from now, they're in the same boat, they're just going to come back again. So you can go back and you can add those addendums. You probably should add in those addendums that if there's any disputes, they're handled by arbitration, and they're also handled by where they pay legal fees if you have to collect. Okay, remember, these are balances, right? We're talking about trying to support clients and help clients, but obviously everybody has to be accountable. So those are some provisions to put in there. The other thing that you can do that we've started to guide people on is if they are receiving money from the SBA and in some of these SBA programs, right? So for example, somebody that is not able to pay rent in a retail store is saying, I can't pay rent, I can't pay my employees, whatever. In modifying their, which is revenue to a real estate company, in modifying their agreements, we are saying if you receive money from, let's say, the SBA loan program or the PPP program, you will pay X in rent to do that. Okay, so these are candid big boys and girls conversations that have to be done with empathy, but there has to be a balance. And so the legal agreements are important, but I think those provisions are things that you have to think about. And we've been helping people with a lot of this stuff along the way, so happy to help.
Yeah, and I think part of Melissa's question is also around, if obviously, we're all trying to kind of meet customers halfway and make room for, for kind of different ways to help them. What's there to stop them from coming back and saying, well, listen, I paid less before, I'm gonna continue to pay less, right?
I would take a slightly different perspective. After this is all done, everybody is going to believe, and in some cases rightly so, and even this is even true today with all the competition we all have, that you can get any service for free. For free, yep. Right? So why does somebody pay for something? Right? And this goes a little bit into, I think that the whole idea around, what I'm highlighting here, alternative delivery is one thing, okay? And that's fine. And we're all gonna shift online, and it's a big but. What we have to be able to deliver is a unique know-how, okay? I've used the analogy before. I'm gonna go out, I'm in Fairhaven, New Jersey today. I'm gonna go for a run. And if my brother says to me, and I happen to be at my brother's family during this time, my brother says to me, hey, Michael, when you go for a run, remember when you make a right on Lewis Lane, there's a big pothole there, right? So everybody is going to get services for free, going to perceive they can get services for free. In fact, they perceived it now before this happened. The ability, right, you've got to make them understand that the critical things that they're trying to accomplish, that they will step in the pothole without you, right? And is there any guarantee to not going back? No, of course not. But you've got to make them understand both the opportunities and frankly the risks that exist if they don't use you. And that all goes down to that know-how.
Yep, great.
Any others, Victoria, or should I keep going?
Keep going.
Okay, great. There may be opportunities, okay, to deliver your product and service in a different way, but I want to pick up on the point that we just made, which is about know-how. Like it's really about You know, if you're in the wellness business, you're in the PR business, it's really tapping into that next level of understanding of what their business is, right? And how you help them succeed. And it's that know-how. You can, so you would never say this, but essentially what we're saying is, listen, you can fire us, but there's 3 things you're going to do that are actually going to cost you money, right? However form that is. And I don't mean that facetiously. I'm not saying that to be tough, but this is just a matter of that not every service is going to be an essential service to people. So if you're an essential service, that means that you are talking about and driving the things that are on the CEO's desk right now. Okay, and those are obviously cash and customers and reducing expenses. Okay, if you picked up the phone and called the customer and said, hey, let's split an employee, right? I'm not saying everybody has those types of customer relationships, but you'd say, let's split an employee so you don't have to let somebody go. You don't think that delivers value to them, and you don't think that they look at your bill differently than somebody else's bill? Okay, 100%. Okay. What I'm going to talk about a little bit now is easier said than done, but there are markets that are thriving, right? There are markets that are not struggling like everybody else. These are incredibly difficult to get through to because they're thriving because there's so much demand. But think about it. Think about, does your product or service apply to bigger customers like these that are doing better? Okay. When you think about the alternative models that I was just talking about, start to think about, don't think, I have an ice cream cone and I'm going to think about different sprinkles that I might put on the ice cream cone. Okay. That's not going to work. That's not going to be enough. Okay. And all of your competitors are doing the same thing, right? Think about, what are the things that people need, right? So let's take moms and parents and kids that are home right now, right? What do they need? The huge new demand set that's occurred from things that are happening at home, right? Nobody can shop and go out shopping, right? Is there a new way is there someone that could package up a service, partner to get others, and come up with a home survival kit, right? And again, not all these ideas are great ideas, right? But how do you think about where money is flowing in this day and age? Okay, there are demand sets that have been created for now, and there'll be demand sets that are being created for tomorrow. I'll give you an example from my old healthcare business. As many of you know, 2008 had a dramatic impact on our business. Business basically got cut in half overnight. Our clients were all the biggest companies in America. We had a reward system, like a loyalty system, where they were rewarding for certain behaviors. We went back to them, to our clients, and said, do you realize you can actually save money if you shift what you reward for? So instead of rewarding for somebody, going to the gym, right? Why not you reward them that if somebody has to go and get a blood test, they could either get the blood test at their local hospital, where it costs $150, or they could get a blood test at Quest Diagnostic that costs $50. So let's shift how we're using rewards, because I can save you $100. Okay, so you have to be creative about the different ways and forms that we're gonna shift things for the way that we're applying our stuff. I'll give you another example. Think about someone that is in a hair salon, right? You're like, okay, I'm in a hair salon. How do I make money? How do I survive? Okay. Well, what's one of the things that's happening right now in all the homes across America, right? There are people with bad haircuts right now, right? Because nobody can go and get a haircut, right? So one creative little company that we're working with said, hey, listen, we're gonna do an online seminar about how to cut your own hair, right? Or get one of your family members to cut hair. And we're gonna charge $25, right? So now they're marketing and they're coming up with just a different way to serve. Another one, super interesting idea, is, you're stuck at home, you waiting to get a haircut. And so they were like, oh, so I'm going to let my kids cut my hair, right? But we said, okay, let's go get a sponsor for that. Let's go get Supercuts to sponsor that, right? So haircuts, you need a physical location to do it. Why? Right? Why can't you come up with, like, think about how cool it would be if Supercuts sponsored something and they had pictures of people having their kids cut their hair all over the place. Okay. Again, not all of these ideas are the greatest ideas in the world. Okay. But they are ideas that you have to start to think about other ways and shapes and forms and other markets about to go after revenue opportunities. Okay. V, let me stop there. I know there's a lot of questions coming in.
I think, yeah, people are just, it's just about tapping into the creativity, right? It's kind of thinking outside the box and thinking things that we normally know to be true no longer really apply, right? It's really going above and beyond what we normally think is ways to do in certain industries, right?
Absolutely, 100%. Okay. If you're a wellness company for corporate America, you may have to be a wellness company delivered online for moms and dads, right? If you're a psychologist, right, that can't see any patients, maybe you're doing marriage counseling for all the people that are sitting next to on the couch that never did before. Okay, so one of the things I'm showing you on your screen right now is every year there's a list of America's most promising companies, right? Of the 100 on this list, a third were created in the middle of the 2008 financial crisis. Okay, so this is not easy. I'm not suggesting that it's easy. Okay, but think about different ways to package and price your solutions to your clients. Okay, and now I'm going to spend the last little bit of time on
Michael, quick question.
Yeah.
Is it better for somebody, so if somebody offers a suite of products, right? If it's more than one, is it better to focus on just one versus trying to take, 3 or 4 and think about different ways?
I think the nature of your product mix and what you offer has to be very, very specific to what is on the CEO's desk and of the biggest concern to them. So it's not about one product versus multiple products.
Mm-hmm.
It's about picking the products that make a difference, right? So take what we're trying to do here at Lonely Entrepreneur. If I brought you through, hey, I'd like you to listen to information about how to create, innovative new revenue models for 5 years from now. You'd be like, wait a minute, I'm trying to batten down the hatches. I don't want to talk about that, right? I want to talk about how do I get my money from the SBA and how do I come up with creative revenue. So I think, V, it's not so much about the number of products as it is what goal those products help business leaders achieve in this environment.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Okay. Any others, or should I kind of keep going?
Keep going.
Okay, great. So we have about 10 minutes left. So again, if any other questions or comments come up, please feel free. So we've talked a little bit, so I don't have to go into it a ton still, is that we've talked a little bit about new revenue models, right? And the opportunity to deliver things in a different way, right? And I think that to a large extent, there are revenue models, like think of it this way, think about things like Trunk Club, right? Did anybody ever think that somebody would deliver a package of clothing to your home and you would just pick what you want and send it back and not have any obligation to buy? I mean, these are things that these services don't exist. And then all of a sudden somebody goes, wow, how did we ever live without that? Mm-hmm. Right? And who would have ever thought that someone would curate things for you, right? So think about the value, take a step back from your business and think about not how you deliver it today. Think about the value you're creating or providing, right? And work backwards from that. Work backwards from what does the market need? What do moms at home with their families and their kids back from college, like, what do they need? Okay, and if you're a psychologist, can you repackage your service in a different way, right, to that particular audience? And does that have to take the form of a new revenue model, right? Does that have to take the form of a pay it as you use it model? Does it have to take the form of an incentive driven model, right? That is going to, that would align your interests with the interests of your customers. Okay. What I want everybody to understand is that new revenue models are going to emerge after this, which are going to be, there are going to be plenty of opportunities, but there's going to be challenges. Okay. One of the things that we've helped people do, there's so many restaurants that are not working, but that are not in business right now. But there's all the restaurants and a lot of the shopping stores are delivering things, right? So now restaurants are partnering with other restaurants to just be their delivery service and have their employees deliver. Like there's all kinds of new models that are going to be crafted. If you ultimately are providing value and providing value on the most critical things that people are thinking about today and tomorrow, because remember, all customers are doing this for tomorrow as well, right? How do they package up their services for what, not only, will my customer pay me and will I be able to retain them, but how am I helping us think about what our customer needs tomorrow? I think the biggest fundamental shift on these new revenue models will be that if everything's going to be free and everything's going to be online and everybody's going to compete for the same eyeballs, okay, it is the vendors, right, and the consumer products companies that help companies solve their problems, right, and help individuals solve their problems that will get paid, right? And that may be very different from what you're looking at today. Okay, so the new revenue models are going to emerge, and obviously there's, pay them as you use them, and there's subscription services, and there's, get a car for free for a month and you get it back. I mean, there's all these things that are emerging in different ways, shapes, or forms. Okay, but what I can tell you is that not only are we going to be pushed on new revenue models and opportunities, but we're also going to be pushed to be, what are we relevant to, right? How do we become the most relevant to a consumer in things that matter? And how do we become most relevant to a business that the things that matter? And the things that matter will get a little bit away from survival. Like right now they feel like survival, but they still will for a year or two after this be about what are the companies and brands and service providers that deliver value at the things that really make a difference. Imagine if we all stayed on the phone and brainstormed and said, okay, there's a bunch of college kids home that aren't going to have internships, that can't go to camp and can't go to X, and they're going to be there for 2 or 3 months. What do they need? I bet you we could figure out some pretty cool stuff. Okay, so this area of revenue we could spend hours and hours and hours on. I can tell you that unique know-how and thinking about what's on their CEO's desk, right? If it's a business, and thinking about how to enable some of these other pockets of demand, like people that are at home and kids that are home from college and all that fun stuff. That is what is ultimately gonna stir the drink, and it will require us to think differently than we're thinking today. Okay, and really put us to the test when it comes to that. So let's take the final set of questions, V, if we have a couple.
A lot of the questions were answered as you were going along. So, and then the ones that we didn't, I asked. So I invite everybody on the call to jump in if you've got particular questions to your particular business. Happy to answer now. Okay. So I have a content business where I make and sell it, and now we're building a platform, and I'd love these ideas. Thanks, Kayla.
One thing that we should also keep in mind is that you may just go after a different customer set, right? You may take your same business that if the customer set you're going after is not viable anymore, you go after a good one. I'm thinking about a firm that we know that does accounting services for nonprofits, and a lot of their clients are associations, and a lot of those associations, their main revenue source is events. That it's a nonprofit, it does 2 events a year, and that's where they get most of their fees. So now we're shifting, and you're saying, okay, well, what type of nonprofit is going to be successful? Well, some of them are charter schools, right? Charter schools are, when schools come back, and that may not be till September, but when schools come back, they're in a position to do things. So can they take their services and start to go after charter schools, because charter schools are not going to be maybe subject to the same funding limitations as an association-based nonprofit as well.
Yep, and we have another question. Wellness professionals that have in-person services that can be online, like acupuncturists, how can I help them with their business?
Yeah, so this is a huge industry, as you can imagine. Everything from acupuncturists to massage therapists to wellness professionals to dietitians to physical therapy. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So the question is, right, what is it that you're helping them achieve? And if ultimately you're trying to help them achieve wellness, and you're like, well, I can't deliver acupuncture, of course. You're not going to have them administer it themselves. But could you say, okay, I've got a relationship with 500 customers, and and that could be 5 or 500, it doesn't matter. And for those 500 customers, I'm supposed to be delivering them wellness. Well, could I bring other products and services? Could I bring somebody that's a reflexologist to the table, or I actually could show somebody how to do it on their own? Could I bring a dietitian to the table? Could I partner, right, with some others and say, we're here for your wellness. I do acupuncture. Now we're going to bring together a suite of services that helps you be well. And that's why you should continue to pay us a membership fee if it's a membership fee business or stuff like that. So again, hard things to do, but requires creativity and proactivity.
Great.
Cool. Okay, we're coming up on the end. Just want to make sure we go back and everybody has access to everything again. LonelyEntrepreneur.com survival-guide. Please feel free to pass it along to anybody that you know. And if there's any other follow-up questions or things that we can help you with, please don't hesitate. I will mention that we are doing our personal one-on-one consulting for $1,000 for 4 hours. This is where we work with you directly on your business. Again, our goal here is to help as many people as possible. And obviously, hopefully the things that people are using in this guide serve most people's needs. But if you need any other additional help, we're happy to help and trying to keep it as cost effective as possible. In addition to that, we are continuing to try to work with all of our constituent entrepreneurs to bring some of these ideas to the table. So remember, you have these fireside chats, but you also have our online community. So if you haven't taken advantage of that, if you're taking advantage of the Entrepreneur Survival Guide, that community is available for free to everybody. And that's where a lot of the day-to-day dialogues are occurring around getting these questions answered, not just specifically for the topic we're covering this week. Okay. Next week, we're going to cover expenses, how to negotiate with vendors, how to get creative with employee costs, which I know are the costs for a lot of us, as well as other creative ways to save money. So feel free to share it, and we'll get into some of those, some of those things. Of course, you don't have to wait for next week to reach out to us to do these particular things, but that's what's next week. Okay. I should also mention that the recording for last week is available on how to take advantage of the government program. So if anybody needs that recording, that is available. I'll show it to you really quickly. That is available in the Entrepreneur Survival Guide right here at the end. Okay, our weekly calls. You'll see our first one about cash, as well as this one will be made available right in the bottom as well. I should mention that the March 27th one, we covered a lot about the foundational things about building your plan. So that one is a long one, but it's got a lot of good meaty stuff in there to hopefully help people.
Yep. Michael, one more thing I would add for everyone on the call, please feel free to share with your colleagues, fellow entrepreneurs, anyone that you think may benefit from this. Obviously, we want to make this available to everybody that is in the spot right now. So
terrific. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Please stay safe, stay healthy. And please, if there's anything that we can do at The Lonely Entrepreneur, please don't hesitate to ask. Okay. Victoria, any parting thoughts?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Michael.
Have a healthy weekend.
Bye-bye.